Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World Explorer podcast. This is the podcast where we take a random prompt and we build an entire world around it. My name is Cassie, and as always, I'm joined with my friend and prompt master, Isaac.
Beans!
Beans?
No, that is not the prompt for today.
Okay,
Anyways,
there we go.
no. So I was thinking back to how a bunch of healers in games like D&D and other RPGs and stuff, they don't have any real significant combat capabilities, except for Katara from Avatar, because Avatar is amazing. But whenever they go into combat, they're pretty much useless aside from just heal teammates that are injured. And I get that's the role and everything, but if they're alone or by themselves, so the other teammates are taken out and they're out of healing ability, like, there's no way for them to generally combat because their weapons consist of bottle of liquid that heals teammates and then stick. And that's about it. So I was thinking, what if we somehow made the healer's healing ability viable as an actual weapon? And so I was like, okay, well, how would you do that? And I was thinking, what if this all took place in a fantasy land? Where there are these monsters roaming about that are made of pure injury and pain.
Oh.
And if the healer were to use his healing ability on monsters that are made of the injury and pain, it would kill them.
So it's like the zombies in Minecraft, where you can splash a healing potion on them and it does damage.
Essentially, yeah.
There's a reference. I don't think we've ever referenced Minecraft in this series.
I don't think so. I add that to the bingo card, I guess.
I mean, we both play it, and that's how we became real good friends. But, yeah. So, it's just, this is a world where they have to fight with healing. So I'm assuming, like,
or at least this one character can.
Yeah. Well, does it mean, like, if people try to, like, injure a monster pain, does that only, like, increase its health points?
You could do that. I'm thinking.
I'm
trying to imagine. Now, this is just a random idea that I had, but I didn't come up 100% of what a monster of pain and injury would actually be constructed out of, and what is the injury and pain like? Literally, is it like is it like a mesh of flesh and bones and blood just smashed together, or is it like, or does it look something more like Grimm from Ruby, where it's just like a dark creature, and just
Grimm
generic
from Ruby,
scary?
Grimm from Ruby was what I first thought. Like, when you said it, that's the first thing that popped in my head, actually. I personally would vote against the mesh of bodies, just because it's gross, and I don't want to see that on the TV, and I don't want to read about it. Like, I guess if that's what you're into, then whatever, but it's not what I'm
If you're trying to make a really gory, disturbing story, go with the mesh of body parts and stuff. But if you're trying to make a more standardized style fantasy that doesn't make your audience and your readers throw up, then go with, like, this sort of black, ghoulish creature of darkness, like Grimm from Ruby.
Okay, so is this a thing that's gonna, like, absorb pain? Like, is the only way to kill it healing, or what?
I think that there should be more than just one way to kill it, because if you say only healing can kill it, well, suddenly all your other classes like knights, archers, whatever, are suddenly obsolete. They can't do anything. Everybody becomes a healer in this world.
I mean,
and if everyone's a healer, basically no one's ever dying, and no one's ever and no one's ever unarmed, and they're all able to heal. Like, I think that there should be more than just healing to kill these guys.
Then what? Then how do they? How do they gather strength from, like, pain then, if they're not, like, taking pain and using it to heal themselves? Or like,
what if every time someone in the world felt some form of pain, it could be something as small as, say, you pricked your finger while sewing, you pricked it on a needle, or it could be something as big as you just got a knife stabbed in your side.
What happens? Like a little pain monster comes out of you?
Well, I'm not thinking it comes out of you, but maybe there's what you could call, let's call it a well of pain, where um, where all the pain is just sort of like in the world is sort of funneled into uh, the earth. I got an idea. How about what if anytime there was pain, it's soaked into the core of the earth, and from the core of the earth, through a well, it comes out these pain monsters, and they're just constantly flowing out.
So it's to stop
Uh,
people from like going to the pain cave and destroying it. And don't say like there's too many of them that overpowers them, because where there's a will, there's a way. So like, what's really stopping people from just ending the pain monsters?
what if the well was a volcano?
So like, it's just so hot they can't get there.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
so
if they try and they start approaching it, maybe it erupts.
just in general.
Like it's basically a security system where it's like if you the closer somebody gets to try and stop it, the hotter it gets and starts erupting.
Okay, question. What's stopping a person who's an absolute, like, I just want to end the world and end it all, from just walking in and setting off this volcano?
Uh, because one volcano erupting, maybe it's just not it doesn't cover enough area to destroy the whole world.
There's another solution. It depends on, like, the amount of people coming. Like, one person can't do much, isn't seen as much as a threat as, like, a whole army shows up and then the volcano would go off.
Yeah, but even if it's not erupting, a volcano is kind of hard to plug.
Yeah, I can agree with
Especially
that.
because, like, even if you do plug it, if enough pressure is built up,
It explodes anyways.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so there's a volcano which these creatures are just crawling out of. So I assume people are putting a perimeter around said volcano to like try to stop them, and that's where these fighters are showing up.
Yeah, I imagine that people could try and build, say, like maybe a wall around it, but even that's the sort of thing I don't think would stop these creatures, because if you're talking about all the pain in the world, that you're looking at a lot of monsters, and if you build up a wall, one, it's going to be hard to build a wall in the first place because there's so many monsters coming out, and you need to build it extremely far out so you're not constantly attacked by them, and we need to be extremely large. But even then, let's say this place started filling up with a bunch of monsters. Eventually, they're just going to start piling on top of each other and just climbing over the wall like that. They just use each other as like
I mean,
a little hill or ramp to
that's why you have
climb up
people
over.
that's why you have people around the wall who are like killing them as they show up and keeping the population down and keeping them from escaping type thing. Also,
I'm just thinking that's going to be a lot of work to keep them down.
well, yeah, but the other option is you have pain monsters going around causing more pain to make more pain monsters.
True. So I imagine like because this is going to be such a massive project and require so much for people to just constantly be guarding these walls, a lot to build the walls in the first place, and just keep on killing these monsters. I think that rather than build a wall around the volcano, what people would be more likely to do is build walls around their individual towns and cities and villages to keep the monsters out rather than try to keep them contained.
I see that's like what would happen at the start when like people, so the beginning of this world, that's what you'd have to do. But I think over time like fundraising and things would occur, and later in this world's life they would upgrade to walling the monsters in so their world is safe. So it kind of just depends on like what time period you want to be in this world. Cause
I mean, if you're looking at a more modern age, futuristic time period, I'm sure that they're going to have these walls that it just have like spinning blades of death all along the sides of them, so that anything that tries to climb over them and get near them just gets chopped up into bits
Yeah,
and
exactly. We're
dies.
just kind of explaining the different stages. I'm saying at some point the wall comes up and there's people to guard it, and then maybe at some point even beyond that it gets automated. But before all that, it has to start with like just walling your city and trying to basic survival and stuff. So, question
Yeah.
about the monsters. Is like the amount of pain you feel reflective of like the size and monster that comes out, or can it like collect pain and make like giant monsters?
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out, like, as we've been doing this whole time. Would it be like, you pricked your finger and now it's like a little monster the size of a fly just comes out of the volcano?
Those
Or
would
is
get
it
so
a
annoying.
hundred people prick their finger 100 times and now you get something more the size of, I don't know, an armadillo?
I like the idea of like it being associated with the amount of pain you feel, and in which case I don't know how sewing would go, because the idea of like litty bitty pain monsters would be the most terrifying and obnoxious thing ever. Like it's locusts on steroids, especially.
Yeah, that would be awful. And I'm not. Those would probably also be harder to build walls to keep them out because if there's a little crack and they start coming in through there, or if they're able to fly.
Let's.
Yeah.
I
Speaking
don't
of
think
which, can
I.
some of these monsters fly?
I
Are
was
there
about to
different
say
types?
I feel like we should keep flying out, or else there's really just no hope.
I mean, you could have like, yeah, maybe flying monsters are just a little less common.
So
And so you could maybe like you have archers shoot them down. If they start swooping down at you, I'm sure that everybody's got some form of a weapon on them at just about all times. Like, if a monster is swooping down at you, even something like, say, a pitchfork could be used to fend them off. Like, as they're coming down, just thrust upward.
we could also make it like that the amount of pain that was caused is the same amount needed to kill him.
I like that. I like
So
that
it
as
means like
well.
if you torture the human being, they've created a massively strong like. Maybe there's even I don't know. Do we want like monsters that like associate with a person's pain level? Like a monster can like collect pain from the same person.
Maybe. I don't know, because I think that if a monster is collecting pain from the same person over time throughout the entire person's life, I imagine most monsters are going to get very, very large. And then what happens when the monster dies? Does the monster like reset, or is it gone
Yeah,
forever?
I would assume it
Are there just as many
resets.
monsters as there are people?
I think it would reset, and then the people when a person dies, that monster just keeps living. It just has nothing to draw more pain out of from.
Okay. So they're basically like, I'm going to call them pain reflections of people.
Yeah.
Uh, so for every person there is a monster. That could work. I'm trying to think of how you could get like an interesting story out of this where, because you're unlikely to come across your particular monster.
Unless you're on the wall.
That's what?
I guess if you're directly fighting them, you might have a higher chance. I know it could still be a fun, like, convenient story element that people will overlook because it's cool.
Yeah. I also think that the idea of just monsters getting bigger on the basis of the amount of pain caused is interesting because if you are torturing somebody and it's just like constant pain, then there's going to be a monster that keeps on building up and up and up. And once that pain stops, there's going to be a gigantic Goliath monster just
Maybe
crawling
that's
out of
it.
that volcano.
Maybe it's actually, like, associated within a time period, too. So that way we can have more monsters than people. So, like, I don't know, we could give, like, a time period of a week or something where it will, like, collect pain. So if you have a week where you feel, like, no pain at all, you get, like, a baby monster pops out. Or maybe, like, the baby flying monster, and that's why they're rare. Is because there's rarely a week where you don't have a lot of pain. Because I know I personally stub my toe, like, 5 times a day. So, like...
Okay, I don't imagine you're going to get a super massive monster from stubbing your toe,
Oh, no.
but
But it builds up.
um, yeah, it
Yeah, I
builds
think
up.
most monsters would be like armadillo size because you used armadillos as an example for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah,
armadillo size monsters would be average, but then there'll be, especially does like getting sick affect monster sizes?
I think it depends on how sick you get and how much pain you're in when you're sick.
Because, like, cancer
Like,
causes pain.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I personally don't usually get sick other than the mild headache. Or I don't get. I'm not in pain when I'm sick other than headaches
But
usually.
that's still
Sometimes
pain.
aching. Maybe a stomach ache if like I'm really sick. I might have a combination of all of these.
And all that's
Uh,
pain, so you're still building monsters. Like, so,
yeah.
so is
But
someone
if it's like you're just a little dizzy and tired, sniffly,
that
no,
shouldn't
you're
count.
not
Yeah,
gonna.
no, because you're not in pain. Okay, so question: If so, this actually introduces like a moral question to people. Like, if you have someone who's just hopelessly sick, maybe there's a chance to cure them, but like it's not anytime soon, and they're most likely gonna die, and they're in a lot of pain, and you know they're making a horrible pain monster. Would killing that person be more likely in this world?
No, because killing the person, that's a guaranteed you are ending someone's life. Creating the monster is a possibility that you are ending someone's life, but given that these places are well defended with big walls going around their towns and cities, and guards everywhere, and everybody's armed, people are likely to be able to fend off against the monsters, and
Okay.
they and when a monster approaches a city, even if it's a big one, start pelting it with arrows, use your heal ability or whatever.
Okay. So, all right. Let's up the stakes a little. So, what happens if we're back in the olden time when it's just cities with the towns? What if the monsters were actually attracted to the person they're associated with? So they have like a one mind track to your town, your monsters. Like so that way, like every town kind of has an even amount of monsters always attacking them, and they're not like group. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now you have like someone who's constantly sick is constantly producing this giant monster you have to fight off, and say you're a smaller town that doesn't have the same defenses. What do you do then?
I mean, I still think that people wouldn't go and kill someone because, again, that's like they're already in this excruciating pain. The monster's already created at this point. It might get a little bit bigger, but it's better to save this person's life, have them get better, and then help fend off against said monster and other monsters to come. And then, because even if they don't have massive defenses, if you've got a spear is an excellent weapon. Like it's an underrated weapon, but it is an incredibly powerful weapon. There's a reason it was one of the most prominent weapons on the battlefield. But yeah. Even if people are just armed with spears, pitchforks, etc., that's enough to fend off these monsters. Especially if it's like if you get like a group of people to go and fight the one big monster, they should be able to take it down.
Okay, but
So even in that scenario,
what about like plague contagions? Because that
what?
imagine an entire town gets like sick with one like a horrible plague. Some of them might die, some of them don't. That's a bad situation for them, isn't it? So would they be more like cautious? Would they outcast people who are sick out of fear of like it spreading even more so than we do?
Well, if it's yeah, if there's so much where it's like half the town or more is now has now fallen ill, yeah, they're toast. That entire town is gonna die. Cause
Exactly. So
that's a
I
lot
just
of monsters.
so I feel
Unless
like
these monsters take.
I feel like if someone gets sick, like there's a outcast like quarantine is a huge thing in this world more so than in ours. Because not only now, if you get sick, not only are you risking like spreading it to other people, you're also risking it of those who are healthy now having to deal with giant monsters coming and attacking them.
Yeah, I'm thinking that uh, even if you were to say kill all of those people who were sick, you still have to deal with all of the monsters that they've created, and now you've just reduced your army by half.
Well, no,
And
I'm
meanwhile, pain
talking about
monsters
like
still exist.
I'm talking about isolation now. And when I'm referring to that, I'm talking about someone who's going to be in pain for weeks, like months. They're going to be producing these monsters weekly, and you're not sure they're going to live in general. So you're wondering if it's worth going through several months of like painful monsters coming in and wrecking your town for this one person who may or may not survive.
Okay, so if
That's the
it's
situation. Also, keep in mind, people are not as morally good as me and you, who are like save the human at no cost, all costs. A lot of people aren't like that.
Yeah, if you have that sort of scenario where your small town's like very, immoral and everything, and they aren't going to try and save people's lives, well, yeah, they're going to do it. Not for any sort of moral reason, like for the greater good, but because they just don't want to bother with fighting the monsters. It's just like, it's a good die, it's for the greater good or something, therefore I can justify killing you.
Well, yeah, that's so, how it always
in
works.
Those scenarios, yes. But if you're talking, but you were talking about people doing it for a good moral reason. No, I don't think that. I think that in the vast majority of cases, you're not going to kill your fellow, I can't think of the word, villagers, your family, friends, all of that, to keep the monsters from coming. It's better. It's not morally good. There's not any real significant advantage to doing it. In fact, I think it's more of a disadvantage in most cases. The only times where it would maybe be viable is if like half the town got this plague and you needed to move them all away and then let them all die so that what's left in the town can survive. Even if your army's cut in half, those monsters will not respawn, they will not come back, and you can kill them over time. So in that sort of extreme example where they don't have the higher technology and to defend themselves with walls or anything, and there's like no other way, or else they all die, then yeah, I could maybe see that happening.
I mean, I'm
in the
like,
vast majority of cases, no.
I mean, I'm thinking more like people who come down with like things like cancer. Like they're extremely sick. The villagers don't know why. They know it's not contagious, but they're pretty sure this person's dying. Speeding up the process. Like, do they have like, would this become like a thing that's regulated? Would town members be like judging, or I don't know, the doctors, quotation marks, be judging people's health and like evaluating and be like, also like super clumsy people? How much like hate would they get? Like, would you be like really like, would people hate you if you were like just a super clumsy person who hurt themselves a lot?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, I think it might depend on how much they're hurting themselves. Like, if they really are hurting themselves enough to start bringing in giant monsters, that's a possibility. But, again, if there's walls and stuff, I don't think people really care. But if there's no walls and they have very little in terms of defense, people might be rather annoyed by them, because it's just like, you're making things harder for all of us.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But
like,
at the same time, you're only increasing the strength a little bit of one monster.
Yeah, but
it's not like you just doubled the army.
Yeah, but people aren't going to think about that. I'm referring to like you're living your best life. You're doing okay. You stub your toe like once a week. You send out a little fly monster into the town. You're like, whatever, I can squash that with a book type thing. But then you see like this person who's like constantly stubbing their toes. They're tripping up. They're trying to be helpful, but maybe like they burn themselves constantly while cooking, or they prick their fingers are covered in bandages because then eventually I feel like would people want to like start kicking those type of people out? Be like, especially if they're sending in like
so clumsy that you're getting.
Like imagine them like sending wolf-sized monsters. Yeah, but you're dealing with like a wolf monster every week attacking your town, and you don't have the walls yet. Like, and it's coming. At some point,
if someone's really hurting themselves that much, I'm surprised they're still alive to begin with.
Well, it's just a lot of little pain building up. It's a lot of little pain building up. Well, that's what
even then, I don't think that they're going to be hurting themselves that much. Unless you have, like, the occupation of something like, say, a blacksmith, and you're really bad at your job. But even then, if you're a blacksmith, you're the guy making all the weapons. So,
yeah.
I don't think people really mind all that much. It's like, oh, okay, it's okay if you smash your finger with the hammer. That's fine. You gave me a sword so that I don't have to worry about all these other monsters.
Well, yeah, but that's like a give and take. This is like a person who's... Every time she tries to be they try to be helpful in like the society, they end up like hurting themselves and therefore are just a hindrance.
If they're really that bad and again somehow haven't killed themselves, then yeah, I could see them potentially being thrown out if there's like no walls or anything.
Yeah.
Why are you so desperate to get people exiled and
because
killed?
okay, I'm sitting here trying to make this like a dystopian, like dark, we have lots of outcast people worlds. And I know you wanted like fantasy with a cool evil creature wandering around. And I'm like, nah, let's go dystopian. So.
I'm having trouble justifying the dystopian setup. The original idea was to give healers combat ability, and you're trying to turn it into a dystopia that doesn't really fit.
I think I could see it fit of like a society where clumsy people are kind of outcasts, where being sick is way more dangerous than like it is even for us. Like, there's a new level to danger to being in pain.
The level of danger that sickness proposed, like, maybe sickness, it was like, it created much larger monsters much faster or something, or it created multiple. If it was, like, more dangerous, then yeah, I could see that sort of dystopia
Well, obviously,
happening.
Like, sickness is going to be extremely dangerous, because think about, you're in constant pain for hours, for days. That's like a huge I think these monsters build up quick. Just because I don't think as a society we're in like major pain all the time, so like these monsters can absorb a lot of pain. Or like, what about someone who has like migraines completely, constantly? Like, migraines are painful. They can be. Also, I hate to bring this up, but what about like women's once a month? That's not a plus. It's like once a week.
I don't think they're gonna exile all the women.
No, I think that's something they can't help.
Men,
but
we love our women way too much. Please don't get rid of. You know what?
No,
let's exile all the women once a month, and whatever comes back, we'll share amongst the group.
but that's just a thought I have.
Dystopia. This is the dystopia you get.
Look, I'm just saying, like once a month, a woman produces quite the monster. Like some, I know I personally wouldn't, but there's a lot of people I know who would. just a thing as you're writing to keep out there. It's an interesting element, especially if you want to go in that direction and make it like a more political statement. I'm not a big fan of political statement books, but I don't hate them every now and then. And this is an element that has to be considered.
I mean, you could do that.
But anyways,
if I was writing this book, I never would. That thought would have never crossed my mind.
Well, you're a guy, so obviously a woman. Like, I don't hold that against you in any way.
I don't really think about it, and it's not like I
have
this sort of conversation with people very often.
But so what about like people who have like serious migraines constantly, or like who have sicknesses that cause them pain more often than other people? Would they find it hard to like find a home or a place to stay?
I imagine they're put on guard duty the most often.
Is that how that works? Maybe. Okay, like to compensate for it. But what if like the pain makes them incapable of doing that? Like a lot of pain, like a migraine, you can't be on guard duty with a migraine. You can barely like get a good night's sleep. I mean, some people can't even eat. Like, it's awful.
If you're really that bad and you have a very not nice place that you're living in, and people don't want you there, I could see people, and also you don't have any good defenses. I could see that person being exiled.
Okay, I'm just
really
here trying.
That much trouble. But
look, I'm just here trying to set up a story for like a disabled protagonist. That's all.
Okay, so that's what you want. You don't want the dystopia. You want a disabled protagonist that is constantly fighting big monsters.
Because he's constantly in pain and has to deal with it, and he's trying to be accepted by society.
What if you were to trap the monsters?
Oh. Well...
Like, if everybody's tied to only one monster...
No, they're tied to a new monster a week, remember? The monster comes out, and then a new one's forming each week. So you're not tied to just one monster.
It's a brand new one. It's
every week. Yeah, just that way there could be, like, you could have, like, constant monsters, like, after you. And I think that would be more entertaining story-wise. Also, I've come up with a reason why these monsters would be, like, attacking the person that created them. Maybe if they cause direct pain to this person, they can, like, gain more power from them. But they have to be causing the pain themselves, or else it goes to the new monster.
Okay, I mean, I think that so long as the monster is alive, any pain dealt to this person is going to increase that monster's strength. So, I would say, yeah, that's probably the reason that they're hunting down these individuals is just to gain more power.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they're constantly
Maybe
getting.
if they kill, hold on, maybe if they kill the um their target, they no longer expire. Like they can be killed, but they don't just automatically die like the other ones.
What do you mean automatically die? I didn't think they had like a week timeline.
Oh, I thought that's what you were saying. Like if they exist for so long, like a week, and then they die when the next one comes.
I mean, that's an interesting idea. That wasn't what I was thinking. I was thinking like one just is so inside the cave there's like these little capsules for every person that exists, and this monster is developing in there for a week, and then after that week they come out and a new one starts forming. That was what I was thinking, but I like your idea too.
Yeah, I think either one can work.
I think they're both they're definitely different dynamics, because in one you only ever have one monster after you, but that's a monster that's constantly gaining more power the longer you let it live, but at the and has like a stronger desire to kill you because it's the only way it can like live.
Yeah.
But in the other one you then get like the fun zombie hordes after you, or like especially if you're just running from monsters, they're only increasing in number. So you could have like 30 monsters after you at some point if you manage to avoid all the monsters for 30 weeks, which could be. So it's, I guess it depends what type of fights you want. Like, do you want like zombie killing type fights, or do you want like intense boss battle fights?
Yeah, those are the sort of the two differences. Because yes, hordes are fun, where it's like one individual monster, you could probably take it no problem, but 30 of them, oh dear, run for your life. And that just keeps building up over time. Or you've got every once in a while that monster will be tracking you down, and then maybe if you were in a lot of pain recently, you know that you better be prepared to fight something like a werewolf type of monster.
So the thing, the thing about the boss battle one, and why I kind of prefer my version more, is that all you have to do is kind of live a week journey away from the volcano, and you're set. Like, they just can't get to you.
That's true.
So I think the other one still has potential for boss battle if you have been like in a lot of pain for a week. And also, what's to stop some like person who has a vendetta against a town kidnapping some poor person, going into a basement and torturing them to near death, and then like hiding them near a place of like where they want this monster to destroy the town, and you could have the most horrific monster attack and like destroy the town hunting this person.
If you wanted to attack the town, yeah, I don't see why you couldn't do that. I was thinking about this earlier, that there might be some people who just start torturing someone to create a gigantic monster.
Just remember, the monsters aren't going to be. I mean, if you're in the way of the monster, it's going to kill you to get to the other person. But like at the same time, it's very one focused on like, where's the person that created me? That's the one I want to kill. And then after it kills that person, or if it does, that's when it goes full rampage, because now it can kill whoever it wants. Or maybe it flees.
I see no reason why that can't happen.
Yeah,
I think that it absolutely would happen.
I think that's a cool story element. I think
but it would be unlikely. And again, this is the sort of reason why, if somebody was, for whatever reason, put in that kind of ridiculous pain, people would start building these walls around their towns, guards everywhere, so if something big comes, they can kill it. But if you're talking about something that's big enough to start smashing through the walls, now you've got an epic boss battle portion of the story where you got to stop this monster before it reaches the person, or lure it out of
or even worse, like what's
town with this person.
Isaac, what's stopping this person from doing this to multiple people at the same time? Like, they kidnap a family.
Yeah, you could have an army
of horrified. Yeah, that could be a thing. And that could be something that they have to deal with, and like maybe trying to get the family out and luring these giant monsters away from towns and then trying to kill it or something like that. And you know, you could have a family monster murder adventure because the family got tortured and now there's these giant monsters after them and they're on the run from them and trying to figure out how to kill them, but they're very strong because it was a rough week.
Okay, so as creatures become bigger, we need to know if physics applies to these guys because, or if they have like a increased mass
I
when
think it's
they
an
are getting
increased
bigger
mass.
because the bigger a animal is, the slower it moves. Uh,
Uh,
and the harder it is for it to say pick up heavier objects. Like if you look at something like an ant, it's able to carry 10 times its weight.
yeah.
If you look at something like an elephant, it's
Yeah, it's got
fairly
muscles.
slow-ish. I mean, they can stampede and everything, they can run, but it's not like, say, a horse.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, like, what's...
So is there like an
Yes.
optimal size where it's like maybe about the size of a bear or something?
I think it's, like,
Where
depending
anything
what you're...
larger than that?
It's probably, like, what you're going for. You know, the idea of a person, like, measuring out torture elements to get, like, the perfect sized monster is so sadistic, and, like, I could see a person doing it, and that's kind of horrifying. But,
Not to 50!
yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So I could see this happening and them like experimenting. Like maybe they have a. Okay, now imagine this. All right, you have like, this group of horrible scientists. This could be like a government-run program, or it could just be a group of horrible people. And
A
they
pit
have
of despair.
yeah, exactly. They have a pit of despair, and they have like certain individuals. Maybe it's even individuals who have like the disabilities that make them in constant pain. So they just feel like they're justified in using them to like experiment monster sizes. And they're sitting there like evaluating pain levels and what type of monsters those create at different levels and how best to defeat those type of monsters. And they're saying it's for the greater good because with the research they're doing, they can now help people defeat their monsters better, but in reality, they're just curious and they're torturing individuals to satisfy their curiosity.
How does this help to defeat monsters better?
Well, they know like what to expect, like what sizes you can expect, and I guess maybe better what certain sizes have like different abilities, maybe even like the little
Maybe.
ones can fly. Maybe
Yeah, the
there's
thing is,
like
usually I don't think that people wouldn't be worrying about that too much again, unless they're
I think it's
set up,
curiosity.
set up with didn't have many defenses. But if they did have defenses, I don't think people would be worried too much because they got defenses. Even the big stuff isn't a problem, unless you were to get a bunch of big ones. Because you get your big ones that are big enough to start smashing through the walls, but are slow enough to take down. You got your more medium-sized ones that are just on an individual level hard to fight, and you got your smaller ones that can move really quickly throughout the town and just wreak havoc.
Yeah.
You get a bunch of those because once the wall breaks, there are going to be a lot of smaller ones that come through just from people hurting themselves in
Yeah,
their everyday
exactly.
lives.
Yeah.
Uh, but the bigger ones could, and you could like create different size ones to have basically different types of units for your pain army. So you're just like, okay, I'm going to torture these people to level 20 so we get some more medium-sized ones. These people will be at 35 so we get some fairly big ones, but they're not super slow. And then we'll get the ones that are up to 50 so that they can smash through the walls. And we're going to get a bunch of those so that they cannot be stopped when smashing through the walls. Just too many to handle.
Yeah. That's
Gonna place these people on different sides of the city so that you're getting attacked from all different angles. There you go.
that's yeah.
That's sort of thing I imagine people would do if
And
they
this
were
is
trying
the
to use
type,
these monsters.
yeah, this is
To,
the type of thing like one statistic person gets away with it type thing. Like this isn't going to be something that happens constantly. Like the type of person you'd have to be to actively torture people like that. But at the same time, I can still
imagine it would be the outcasts.
oh, like someone
Like
who's horribly sick all the time
yeah, it's
and
like
trained
you.
their
It's
own.
like you left me for dead. Now I'm gonna send the monsters after you. Like I had to face these monsters out there because you threw me out in the wild when I was sick. I got better, guys. And then he sticks
But
all these
now,
monsters on
but
them.
at the same time, you know how people are weird. Like they go through this traumatic thing because of a certain part of themselves, and then the people they take it out are people who share their issue. So he would be the type of person who would like find these stranded disabled people and maybe like offer them like help and hope, and then that's how he kidnaps them and then gets to use them on his great endeavor to absolutely annihilate everyone.
Yeah, I could see that happening, but I think what's more likely is that he finds other outcasts, and then they all work together to capture
True, that
people
could
who are
happen
in the
too.
cities and in the towns and torture them.
Yeah.
Because I imagine he's going to need a group of people to get a massive project like this done, setting up multiple locations around the walls, uh, all these different torture devices, getting a bunch of people tortured at once. Like, this is a thing that I think would require multiple people.
Yeah. What's
So
and then they kind of just wait, make sure it happens, and then they flee for. They probably have an escape route planned as well, and then they just escape and leave the town to its destruction. Move on to the next
I
one. That's it. They move on to the next one, and it's freaking people out because these big towns are being hit with this, and no one knows why.
I imagine painkillers
Oh
are a
yeah, we did
very
talk about like this
popular.
whole. We talked about like this whole thing is for like healers to have an ability, but I feel like this world really relies on there not being healers.
I mean, you get the pain, but I think that you can still be healed after you have the pain, and that doesn't reduce the monster size.
Well, it can if
But
like you
it would
say
be
you
like
break
another
your
form of.
arm, breaking your
I don't
arm.
think that the healer element of all of this is really all that necessary. If you want to add that in to this world, go right ahead.
If
It's a
honestly,
cool element to have. I just think that maybe you're going to need to add in more of a magic system, add more details to it, maybe add some other types of abilities in there. Uh,
yeah,
all these different things.
my only concern is like a healer has the ability to downgrade the coolness of these monsters and this entire world if they're too overpowered. Like, I like the idea of. I feel like healers are now valued a lot more. Like, the idea of someone learning, like, plants and how to use them to, like, ease pain and stuff. Like, would be so much more valuable and, like, treasured as a person than. I mean, they are in this in society today because, like, that's a crazy cool thing you're doing, but, like, the importance of them is even heightened in this world because there's a scary monster that crawls out under your bed if you hurt yourself.
Yeah. Again, I imagine people are constantly just taking painkillers in this world. Like, that's just an everyday thing. It's like every morning just pop a painkiller because you don't, even if you don't need it, people are going to keep taking them just to reduce the monster size.
But would we need like painkillers not to be as effective in this world, or a
No,
side
I think that
effect to
they would be
using them all?
I think that they would be plenty effective because painkillers don't numb all pain throughout your body just by taking a single pill or a drink or whatever. Like, you can still feel pain, it's just reduced.
Yeah. There's
And
also limits to like how much you can have. Like you're only supposed to have, I think, up to 4 a day, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, and 2 at night. And even then, you're supposed to take like a day or two break in between them, not to mess yourself up.
yeah, you're not supposed to take painkillers often, but I imagine these people are taking them at least somewhat regularly. Even though they don't need them, they take them anyway
Just in
just to
case.
help keep monsters away.
Yeah,
Unless the defenses are just so good they don't need them.
true. But I don't know. But okay.
This is
Well,
more the technology that I think the people without the walls would have, the much more earlier stages of development.
oh,
That's more,
plant like healing plants. I feel like would have such a huge precedence.
they go get some healing plants and they turn those into painkillers and they just take those constantly. I imagine that's what the early stages of society would have rather than walls, because a small little wall made of branches and stuff isn't gonna be enough. You need like stone walls
Yeah.
to do anything to keep these guys out.
Yeah, so to summarize, we've created a world where monsters, based off of the amount of pain you've had during a week, come out of a volcano and start hunting you. Which leads to the outcast of those who are disabled in a way that they experience pain constantly and a lot of it. And throughout time, we have different means of defeating them, from painkillers to building walls to then walling in the monsters themselves to people constantly on guard attacking them, to crazy statistic guys who have kind of justified anger towards people for outcasting them just because they experience pain more often. Now coming in to show them what like real pain looks like and what real monsters can be formed by torturing people. It's not a nice world. It's a fascinating
This is not
one.
a nice world. Definitely a fascinating one. You can make it a more fun world by introducing all of those other fun fantasy elements, like the healer, and build a magic system for that. There's a lot more that you can add on to this world. This is like one massive element that encompasses the entire world. I would still call this like building a world and not an element.
No, this is a fantasy world, in my opinion. Like a good base.
There's just
fantasy.
a lot more that you can add on to it. This is just the base of it. This is the start.
This is the big idea from which everything stems. You could also go even darker. You could go so much darker with this world.
Again, you got like the weird flesh monsters that we discussed in the beginning that you could do.
Or made out of volcano and stuff, like molten lava, because they come out of volcanoes, which is
and you don't have to have it come out of a volcano. You could create your own special hole in the ground that they come out of, with its own magical properties. It doesn't need to be a volcano. It doesn't need to be anything that exists in the real world. Create something new.
Yeah, they could even come out like a certain miles away from the person, which I think could complicate things, but could be interesting too. But I do think this is like
all kinds of places you could go with this.
Yeah, but I do think this is like a good place for us to end it. You know, leave the rest up to the viewers who want to take this world and run with it. I will say this is I love dark and creepy worlds, so I really
you tried so hard to turn this into a dystopia.
Okay, I gave up at some point, but I
didn't even know that's what you were trying to do. I'm just like, no, I don't think so. No.
No, I still got there. I got people kicked out of towns and possible murders just because of a reason you can't control.
In the most extreme of situations, sure, you've got your dystopia.
Yeah, but I'm content with how dark I've made this world.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very proud of myself. But this is where we're going to be ending it here. Next week is actually world building basics, so you can join us as we will take on a topic involved with world building and just, discuss our thoughts on it, and hopefully you guys can participate in the comments. But this is all the time we have for today, so we'll see you next week. Bye.
We need to come up with an idea for world building basics.
We got a week. It's fine.
Okay.